10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Hola, hola, hola. Vianney Rodriguez here from South Texas, your resident Tex-Mex queen. Today, guys, we are making flautas. I absolutely adore flautas. They hold a special memory for me because my mom would make them for me when I was little. And there's actually a cute little story behind it. But let me show you what we're gonna need. We're gonna need shredded chicken, corn tortillas, salt, cumin, a little bit of chicken broth, and 1 onion. We're gonna serve them with salsa verde and shredded cabbage. What I like to do is I like to fry my tortillas and then fill them, roll them, and finish them off in the oven. That way I'm not double frying, I'm not constantly over an open flame of heat, and I can make double, triple, as many flautas as I want. To get started, we're gonna lightly fry some corn tortillas in some vegetable oil. I have a skillet here over medium-high heat with a little bit of oil, and we're gonna give it a quick pasadita, a quick pass through the oil, nothing major. We're not looking for crisp, we're just looking for pliable, which makes them easy to roll, okay? Let me show you a quick Tex-Mex tip. When you wanna check if your oil has reached the desired temperature, get a wooden spoon, the end, put it in your skillet, and if the oil bubbles around the wooden spoon, you're good to go. So that's a quick tip that I like to use because nothing is worse than putting a tortilla in the oil when it's too cold and it just soaks up in that oil, and we don't want that. We want crisp, nice tortillas. We don't want oily tortillas. So here we go, guys. We're gonna fry some tortillas, and we're not looking to crisp up. We're just making these pliable so for easier rolling. Okay, a quick pasadita o está caliente la cosa. I already have a dish lined with paper towels to catch the extra oil because we don't want an oily flauta. Okay, just gonna show you how to fry a few. Super easy, you'll get the point. Nothing major. Okay, quick pass. We're gonna turn it. That makes them nice and pliable for when we want to assemble our flautas. Okay? Always tap it on the side to remove the excess oil. Place it on our paper towel lined dish. Okay? So then we've fried our tortillas. Then we're gonna make a quick filling. I made some shredded chicken a few days ago in my slow cooker, and I have some leftovers. That's what I'm using to make my flautas. But you can fill your flautas with anything you have. If you have leftover chicken fajitas, leftover beef fajitas, some carne asada, fill it with whatever you want. You know what works really good too is mashed potatoes. Fill the flauta with mashed potatoes, fry it, and then serve it with like a tomato broth. Oh, that is so good. So now we're gonna work on the filling. So I'm gonna bring back another skillet. Gonna let that heat for a moment while I chop my onion. So my mom calls flautas her double duty meal. When we were growing up, she was working full time, but then she would attend classes at night. So we always knew when it was test day or exam day or she was having a busy week because she would wake up extra early and make a big batch of flautas. And she would put them in Ziploc bags and keep them in the fridge. And whenever we wanted lunch or dinner, we would go in there, pull out some flautas and heat them up. When I tell you that I really love the flauta, I think it signifies all the hard work my mom put into maintaining a full-time job, going to school, raising 4 active kids, being married to my dad. And if you know my dad, he's a handful. So that's why I always say I love flautas for so many reasons, but because they remind me of my mother and her hard work. So I've chopped my onion. I've heated my skillet, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of spice up, pump up our shredded chicken because it's just shredded chicken that's been in the slow cooker. So we're gonna add a few spices. We're gonna add onion, we're gonna add cumin, a little bit of chicken broth, and some salt. And since I have some leftover oil from frying our tortillas, I'm gonna add it to the skillet. And then I'm gonna come in with my onions. We're gonna add those. And right away, those will start to cook. We want them nice and soft and translucent. So a quick few turns. I'm gonna hit them with some salt. Salt will help them to break down, become nice and translucent. And then I'm gonna add some cumin. Guys, if you do not have cumin in your pantry, you need to give it a try. It's such a classic ingredient and it brings such a pack of flavor to every dish. And it's great for stews, it's great for quick marinades. So I add cumin pretty much to everything. I add it to my fajitas, I add it to my flautas, I add it to my soups. Okay, so we have our onions nice and soft, and we're gonna start to add our shredded chicken. So as you can tell, this filling comes together super quick, no extra steps, nothing fancy. Use what you have on hand. If you would have had some shredded carnitas, that would have worked well too. Okay, I'm gonna add it to the pan. Continue to mix this. I'm actually gonna lower the flame. It's a little hot. Okay, we've got our chicken warm through. And our last ingredient is just a little bit of chicken broth. We wanna add some moisture back to that chicken. And it adds a little bit of flavor also. We're continuous, every time we add an ingredient to our skillet, we're adding another layer of flavor, which we want. And that's it. How easy was that? Onion, cumin, shredded chicken, and some chicken broth. I'm gonna take this off the flame. I'm gonna turn off my stove, and I'm gonna let that just cool down just a little bit so I can assemble the flautas without burning myself. So flauta is the Spanish word for flute. So if you were to see a flauta, it looks like a little tubito, it looks like a flute. So, and flautas are super popular. They go by the name of flauta, taquitos dorados, and they're doing some interesting things with flauta. I went to a Tex-Mex restaurant recently and they served me a plate of flautas, and it had cheese and it had hot Cheetos and it had sour cream, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? Of course I ate it because I had to critique it, but it was delicious. I loved it. So to bake these, I have my oven at 300 because we're not doing any heavy baking. We're just crisping up our tortillas that have already been lightly fried. I'm gonna start to make myself a little assembly line with my tortillas. And we wanna add enough filling to fill the flauta, but we don't want it to overfill. Okay, so we're gonna have our filling, start our filling towards the end of the tortilla. This is also how we assemble enchiladas. So it makes it easier, and when you're rolling, you're tucking. So you get all that filling in there, but you want a tight tuck so they don't unfold when baking. So here we go, here's the first one. We're gonna roll and we're gonna tuck. Roll and tuck. And then this is where you'll stop. This is your seam, and your seam will go at the end of the baking sheet. That way we're starting like a little line of flautas. For the next one, nice and tight. This one will go right next to the flauta, and they create a little barrier for each, just so they don't unroll when you're baking. So traditionally, flautas are made by lightly frying the tortilla. You put them aside to cool, you fill them, and then you refry them until they're nice and crisp. And then some people put toothpicks in them so they don't unroll. But my mom started doing this like this because she could make 3 or 4 baking sheets full of flautas to have in the fridge on those hectic days. Yeah, shout out to mommy for inventing a great way to make a big batch of flautas. And you can top these flautas with anything. Once they come out of the oven and they're nice and warm, you can put some cheese on them. You can serve them with salsa. My daughter, Lisandra, likes them in a bed of like a little bowl, and I put some chicken broth, and then I lay the flautas over it and put some shredded cabbage. So serve them how you like, serve them how you enjoy them. The important thing is that you're making something for your family. And these freeze beautifully. You can bake these, put them in a plastic bag and store them in the freezer and pull as you need. These are perfect for kids' parties. I went to a quinceañera one time and they had a flauta bar and I was like blown away because they had flautas de fajita, flautas de asada, flautas de pollo, flautas de papa, flautas de hongos, which is mushrooms. And I was like, wow, this girl is a genius. Okay, so there's our flautas. They're on our baking sheet and now we're gonna pop them into a warm oven and they're gonna bake about 10 minutes just so they get nice and crisp. So our flautas have been in the oven for about 10 minutes and let me go check on them to make sure they're nice and crispy. Yep, they're ready, guys. Very carefully, this baking sheet is hot. I'm gonna place them on a cutting board and I'm gonna give them a quick sprinkle of salt. Okay, and let me show you how I plate these babies. They're still kind of warm, so be careful. I'm going to top them with some shredded cabbage for crunch. And then I'm gonna drizzle plenty of salsa verde over the top. So there you have it, guys. My beloved flauta that reminds me of all the hard work my mom put into raising us and continuing her education. Guys, these are delicious. I hope you give them a try. Be sure to like and subscribe to keep receiving the Tex-Mex goodness coming your way. Hasta luego.